What if everything you were told about your home equity was a lie? What if the stability you bought into, the nest egg you counted on for retirement, is dissolving right now? Not slowly, but aggressively, wiping out years of hard-fought gains. For years, we've watched the headlines, record lows, bidding wars, the relentless, impossible climb of the American dream turning into an unreachable fantasy. But the story has changed. The bubble that swelled between 2020 and 2024 wasn't just soft. It was built on a flimsy foundation of temporary zero interest rates, government stimulus, and the desperate hope of a populace fleeing cities. Now, in the year 2026, the moment of reckoning is here. The forces that inflated the market are now violently reversing, and the correction will be measured not in small percentage points, but in catastrophic six-figure losses. We are not talking about a soft landing. We are talking about the Great Meltdown. This is a financial event that will redefine home ownership for an entire generation. This is the moment when the market stops pretending and starts paying the price. The data we have compiled shows an unprecedented level of distress brewing beneath the surface of the national housing market. This isn't generalized weakness. It's a structural failure targeted at the very cities that saw the most frantic, least sustainable growth. We are breaking down the 12 U.S. cities where the median home price will fall by $100,000 or more, a threshold of pain that will trap millions underwater, shatter investor portfolios, and forever change the calculus of buying or selling. This is not fear-mongering. It is a critical warning. If you own a home, if you are waiting to buy, or if you are simply worried about the future of your wealth, you need to understand where the tsunami is hitting first. You need to know the specific metropolitan areas where equity is turning into debt. Before we begin the countdown, take a single second to subscribe to Discover the Nation. We are the only source giving you this level of granularity, this level of truth, and this kind of analysis before it hits the mainstream headlines. This is real data that matters, and it could save you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The housing shift is here. Let's begin the breakdown of the cities destined for a six-figure home price drop. Our analysis begins not with the cities themselves, but with the three seismic economic forces that are currently conspiring to destroy home values across the United States. The first force is the absolute freezing effect of interest rates. For over a decade, the Federal Reserve kept money artificially cheap, training an entire generation of buyers and lenders to believe 3% mortgages were the norm. They are not. With rates now cemented above 6.5% for conventional loans, the buying power of the average American family has been decimated by approximately 40%. A buyer who could afford a $500,000 home at 3% can barely afford a $300,000 home today. This isn't a theory. It's brutal mathematical reality. The entire pyramid of housing valuation, built on the assumption of cheap debt, is crumbling because the cost of admission has doubled. This effect is most pronounced in high-cost cities, where a small change in rate translates to a massive, often impossible change in the monthly payment. The second force is the great reversal of the pandemic migration. When COVID-19 hit, millions of well-paid tech workers, professionals, and executives fled the urban cores of San Francisco, New York, and Seattle, pouring their six-figure salaries and their enormous equity gains into smaller, cheaper secondary markets: Boise, Austin, Phoenix, and Raleigh. This artificial flood of demand created hyper-inflated local bubbles. The moment the remote work mandate ended and the economy stabilized, these workers either returned to the cities or moved to even cheaper states like Montana or Utah, realizing the promised small-town calm came with rapidly escalating costs and intense traffic congestion. This is the great reversal migration. The result is inventory is up over 150% year over year, the highest spike in the nation. This sudden glut means sellers are slashing prices dramatically just to attract a single offer. For the Boise buyer who purchased a new build in 2022 for $650,000, they're now seeing comparable homes sell for $520,000. That is a swift, brutal $130,000 loss in 2 years. Boise is not collapsing because the city failed. It is collapsing because its market was hijacked by temporary external factors. The panic here is real. Homeowners are trapped, unable to sell their now underwater homes without bringing cash to the closing table. The only question now is how far below the pre-pandemic price levels the market will fall before it finds stability. The trend of rapid, speculative growth is even more pronounced in the Sunbelt. Our next city defined the speculative luxury construction that characterized the mid-decade excess. Austin has always branded itself as the live music capital and a tech hub, but between 2020 and 2024, it became the capital of overbuilding. Developers, blinded by the perceived endless flow of transplants from Silicon Valley, poured billions into high-end subdivisions and luxury apartment towers. The market became saturated. Now, the massive tech companies that once fueled the growth have slowed hiring, instituted layoff rounds, and are demanding their workers return to the office, dissolving Austin's primary selling point for coastal refugees. The result is a dual disaster. The market has too much expensive inventory and too few buyers who meet the necessary salary requirements. Furthermore, Texas's notoriously high property taxes are based on the inflated values of the boom, meaning homeowners are crushed by crippling tax bills even as the market value of their home plummets. This is the definition of financial entrapment. In the new suburbs surrounding the city, where building was most frenetic, a $600,000 home purchased at the peak is now selling for $480,000, a clear $120,000 decline. But the true tragedy is in the mid to luxury tiers, where the drop is closer to $150,000, as there is simply no demand for those non-essential properties. Austin's market correction is driven by two simple factors: too much supply and a sudden lack of the high-wage demand needed to sustain it. Next, we return to the very source of the nation's housing volatility, the tech hubs of the West Coast. Seattle, Washington. Unlike the Sunbelt, Seattle's prices were already astronomical before the pandemic, anchored by giants like Amazon and Microsoft. The assumption was that endless tech jobs meant endless price growth. But this year, that fundamental truth has been shattered. The industry is in a massive contraction. Layoffs are widespread, hiring freezes are common, and the flow of highly paid workers moving into the city has dried up. Seattle's prices are primarily driven by the top 10% of wage earners. When they stop buying, the market stagnates immediately. The condo market, often the leading indicator, is already in free fall. Now the contagion is spreading to the single-family homes in the
metro area. In the high-cost suburbs like Bellevue and Redmond, where the median price briefly touched $1.2 million, those homes are seeing an immediate, hard correction. We are projecting average declines of $140,000 as inventory piles up. Why so steep? Because a $1.2 million home is a discretionary purchase. When confidence disappears, those buyers simply wait, forcing desperate sellers to drop their prices by six figures just to be noticed. The narrative of Seattle as an economic fortress has been replaced by the reality of a city that is financially overleveraged and entirely dependent on a single, volatile industry. Our analysis now turns to a massive, sprawling city in the Northeast that is battling not only high interest rates, but a dangerous three-pronged crisis of confidence and cost. Number 8. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia is one of America's oldest, most storied cities, and it is now finding itself at the epicenter of the Northeast's housing collapse. The city's problems are layered. First, there is the core issue of cost and tax burden. Philadelphia's property taxes, combined with complex city service charges and rising insurance premiums due to aging infrastructure, make home ownership financially punitive. This is driving middle-class families and first-time buyers out to the surrounding suburbs. Second, there is the crime perception crisis. Regardless of the data, the widespread perception of urban decay and rising crime has shattered buyer confidence, causing a mass flight from certain neighborhoods. Third, there is the investor glut reversal. Areas in North and West Philadelphia saw a frenzied boom of flipping and rental investment. Now those flippers and landlords are dumping their inventory at steep discounts to cut their losses, flooding the market. The result is a widening chasm. While Center City remains somewhat protected, neighborhoods just outside the core, areas once targeted by young professionals, are seeing declines between 15 and 22%. On a peak $550,000 property, that equates to a loss of $121,000. Philadelphia's market isn't just correcting, it's undergoing a fundamental crisis of faith in the city's future. a crisis that will only be solved when local government tackles the core issues of safety, taxation, and infrastructure. The final city in this section is a rapidly growing technology and education hub that fell victim to excessive self-confidence and developer over-leveraging. Number 7. Raleigh, North Carolina. Raleigh and the surrounding Research Triangle Park were once celebrated for their stable, predictable growth, anchored by tech, medicine, and academia. But this stability became a license for reckless speculation. Developers built subdivisions, apartment complexes, and townhomes at breakneck speed, assuming the demand from out-of-state workers would last forever. It didn't. As high interest rates have tightened budgets and tech companies have slowed their relocation incentives, the supply-demand balance has violently tipped. Inventory in the Raleigh-Durham metro area is now up 65%, and the number of new construction homes sitting unsold is staggering. The builders are now in a panic. They are resorting to heavy incentives, paying for interest rate buy-downs, covering closing costs, and offering thousands in upgrades, all hidden ways to drop the effective price by over $80,000 without admitting to a price cut. But these discounts are now turning into explicit price cuts as the builders need cash flow to service their development loans. The new homes that sold for $580,000 at peak are now being listed and sold for $460,000, a colossal $120,000 drop. Raleigh's market is a prime example of how quickly stability can turn into crisis when developer confidence outpaces sustainable wage growth. This market is in an unavoidable steep descent. Narrator. We move past the eastern tech centers and head south toward a city that saw an influx of wealth and ambition only to have its foundation eroded by rising costs and municipal failure. This next city is a prime example of how runaway growth can destroy quality of life, leading to a swift market rejection. Number 6. Denver, Colorado. Denver's housing market was once powered by a strong, diverse economy, the allure of mountain living, and a steady stream of young professionals. But the relentless price growth year after year eventually priced out the very people the city needed to function: teachers, police officers, and service workers. This created massive pressure, leading to tax increases designed to fund infrastructure that was buckling under the weight of population growth. Now facing high mortgage rates, Denver buyers are confronting an untenable cost of living situation. The city is too expensive, too crowded, and too stressful for the prices it commands. The discretionary buyer, the person moving for lifestyle, has simply evaporated. The result is a market saturated with inventory where properties are seeing price cuts becoming the rule, not the exception. In the trendy neighborhoods that fueled the recent boom, we are forecasting that homes that sold for $850,000 at the height will trade hands for $720,000 or less, a guaranteed $130,000 swing away from the peak. This decline is not a slowdown, it's a necessary, violent reset driven by simple economics. The local economy can no longer justify the price tag on the lifestyle it is selling. The high-end market is facing an accelerated collapse as the wealthiest buyers choose to wait on the sidelines, forcing luxury sellers to liquidate at enormous discounts. Denver's correction is a warning to all cities where prices grew exponentially while local services stagnated. Next, we move to a region known for its high-cost living, where even a modest home requires an outsized income. When the economy shifts, the most expensive areas fall the hardest and fastest. Number 5. San Jose, California. San Jose, the heart of Silicon Valley, operates on a financial scale that is nearly incomprehensible to the rest of the nation. It is the birthplace of innovation, wealth, and crucially, extreme price volatility. The sheer cost of entry here means that every financial tremor is magnified tenfold. When the tech industry was aggressively expanding, prices were irrational. Now that the industry is contracting, issuing mass layoffs and consolidating office space, the irrationality is swinging the other way. Buyers are paralyzed. Layoffs mean fewer buyers with the necessary 8-figure salaries. Economic uncertainty means even those with cash are choosing to rent or wait, assuming prices must fall further. Unlike cities where a $100,000 drop represents 15 to 20% of the value, in San Jose, a $100,000 drop is simply the starting point. Our conservative forecast suggests that the median home price in many desirable pockets, properties that peaked at $1.7 million, will easily trade for $1.5 million or less, equating to a minimum $200,000 decline. This extreme price action is a function of leverage and scale. When a market is this expensive, buyers are highly sensitive to even the smallest economic shifts, leading to sudden, massive price compression. The golden handcuffs of Silicon Valley have been replaced by the heavy chains of extreme, inescapable debt. Our countdown continues toward the coast, where the combination of climate risk and high taxes is creating an unsustainable environment for long-term homeownership. This city's market failure is a result of structural costs that no amount of economic growth can offset. Number 4, Miami, Florida. Miami has long stood as a global capital of luxury and international investment. When the pandemic hit, it became the poster child for financial migration. Companies and individuals fleeing high-tax states for the allure of sunshine and low income tax. That boom was explosive. However, the foundational costs of owning property in South Florida have become lethal. We return to the issue of insurance and climate risk. Coastal properties are now nearly uninsurable or require catastrophic premiums. Property taxes, fueled by the aggressive municipal spending required to manage the massive population influx, have soared. This perfect storm of unmanageable carrying costs is forcing high-net-worth individuals to liquidate their investment properties and second homes. This isn't panic by the middle class, it's a strategic retreat by the wealthy, and it will shatter the luxury market first. The median price drop we are projecting, easily over $150,000 on peak properties, will be exacerbated by a massive inventory influx of high-end condos and single-family homes that no longer make financial sense as investments. Miami's market is a test case. Can a city survive a financial boom when the fundamental costs of climate risk and taxation make the asset impossible to hold? The answer for 2026 is a definitive no. We turn our attention now to a vital Midwest logistics hub, a city whose growth was tied directly to the pandemic-fueled e-commerce boom. When the consumer economy stalls, these markets feel the pain immediately and deeply. Number 3, Indianapolis, Indiana. Indianapolis was a quiet, stable market until the logistics and warehousing boom transformed it. E-commerce required massive distribution centers, and Indianapolis, with its centralized location, became a hub. This created a surge in demand for affordable housing, driving prices up dramatically in the surrounding suburbs. But the consumer economy is now contracting. Retail giants are downsizing their warehouse space, logistics jobs are slowing, and the low to mid-wage growth in the area cannot sustain the home prices left behind. The issue here is the extreme gap between price and local income. Buyers are locked out by interest rates.
Number 1, Part 2, The Grand Finale City. Narrator, we conclude the countdown with San Diego, which stands as the ultimate symbol of the affordability collapse. A city simply too beautiful and too expensive for its own good. This city, perhaps more than any other, proves that structural costs, taxes, insurance, and the extreme scarcity of affordable land will crush the market even without massive layoffs. The housing shift is not coming, it is here. The correction is not soft, it is measured in six-figure losses. Whether you are a buyer waiting for the bottom or a homeowner desperately seeking to save your equity, you must acknowledge the Great Meltdown. This moment requires decisive action. Subscribe now, and we will guide you through every danger zone before the final headlines hit.